Christian fascists have unleashed an all-out war on women across this country. Last year, the Supreme Court hammered women, ripping away the constitutional right to abortion. This is intensifying the already real and horrific oppression that women face simply for being women in this world of male domination. Meanwhile, these same Christian fascists are taking aim at the rights and the very existence of trans people, passing laws that terrorize trans youth and their families, as well as teachers, healthcare providers, and others who stand with them. Both of these attacks are deadly serious, and both are part of a situation in this country that is rapidly heading towards something truly terrible, something even more murderously repressive and nightmarish than the normal workings of this capitalist imperialist nightmare. But this is also a situation that could be wrenched towards something truly emancipating. A real chance to make an actual revolution that throws this system off the backs of humanity and replaces it with a radically different system and society on the road to real emancipation. In speaking to what is necessary to seize on this rare time, to not just avert the looming nightmare, but to wrench out a real revolution, the revolutionary leader Bob Avakian has said this:
Instead of snarking and sniping at each other and being divided by identities, people should be working to unite everyone from every part of society who can be united in the fight against oppression and injustice, with the goal of putting an end to this system that is the source of this oppression and injustice.
Yet at this profoundly dangerous hour, far too many are caught up in woke insanity that has got them doing the exact opposite. One of the sharpest and most disgusting expressions of this snarking and sniping and being divided by identity, rather than uniting to fight the real enemy and for the future that we urgently need, is the concerted attempt to use the attacks on trans people to erase women, or better put, to erase any recognition of the oppressed status of women, simply for being women, and to obstruct the fight that is urgently needed against this. This particular form of woke lunacy flared up again this past week in response to a tweet by Anna Kasparian, the co-host of the Young Turks YouTube show.
The Young Turks' Anna Kasparian is facing accusations of transphobia online after tweeting this yesterday, quote, "I'm a woman. Please don't ever refer to me as a person with a uterus, birthing person, or person who menstruates. How do people not realize how degrading this is? You can support the transgender community without doing this, SHIT."
Indeed, the woke mob immediately came for Kasparian. Alejandra Caraballo, a clinical instructor at the Harvard School of Cyber Law, tweeted, quote, "Oh, fuck off with this stupid, made-up bullshit. Trans folks are having their existence criminalized in state after state, and you want to whine about this shit?" MSNBC contributor Caitlin Burns told Anna to get a grip. And here's Sam Sater of the Majority Report.
Tweeting out something like that, in my estimation, is the tweet itself, the act and the tweet, in this context, right, is an anti-trans act.
As of this filming, Kasparian's tweet has been viewed more than 27 million times, with a near uniformity of those responding to her from the left, accusing her of transphobia. This is complete and utter garbage. Not only did Kasparian explicitly indicate her support for trans rights in the tweet, in addition to her long track record of covering and opposing the attacks on trans people on her show, this accusation defies basic logic and demonstrable reality. The wokesters act like Kasparian is just inventing a problem. They insist again and again that no one is really trying to replace the word woman with birthing people, while simultaneously attacking Kasparian for, wait for it, saying that she wants to be called a woman rather than a birthing person. But it's far worse than that. Last year, during what can only be called the most deadly, vicious, and far-reaching assault on women's rights and basic humanity in generations, during the lead-up to and the immediate wake of the Supreme Court's overturning of abortion rights, there was a complete collapse of the so-called reproductive rights movement. They and others should have been fighting to bring millions into the streets to stop the overturning of abortion rights. But instead, they refused to do this. And on top of this, Planned Parenthood, NARAL, the ACLU, and pretty much the entire reproductive rights movement chose this moment to launch a concerted campaign against even using the word woman when referring to abortion rights. One coalition of reproductive rights groups put out a major ad signed by over 100 prominent artists, actors, and others that called out the attack on abortion rights as being bound up with racial capitalism, colonialism, and white supremacy, but never mentioned the words patriarchy or women once. Worst of all, a motley cabal of opportunist wokesters took this even further by attacking and labeling as transphobic myself and others in the one group, Rise Up for Abortion Rights, which was leading people into the streets to fight against the overturning of abortion rights. And these wokesters also launched a totally piggish attack on the revolutionary leader Bob Avakian that stunk of the FBI's COINTELPRO. It is difficult to overstate the harm that was done by these forces, first by refusing to name this fight for its real stakes, which was the enslavement of women through forced motherhood, not some kind of abstract and genderless bodily autonomy. Then, by these forces standing aside from the fight that needed to be waged, which is what this erasure of women covered for. And then either joining in or remaining silent when Rise Up for Abortion Rights was hit by these wokesters trying desperately to justify their own cowardice. This was active complicity with the fascist assault on women. And let's get this clear. The attack on abortion is at its essence an attack on women. It is a fight by Christian fascist fanatics who openly preach that women should submit to their husbands as their husbands submit to the Lord. They insist that the only way for women to redeem themselves for having allegedly committed the original sin is by bearing children as their prime duty. And these fascists now hold a majority position on the Supreme Court and significant branches of government. And they have millions of unthinking shock troops ready to fight for their future. Of course, it is true that there are also trans men and non-binary people who also need access to abortion rights. And the vicious, escalating attacks on trans people need to be vigorously fought and defeated. But the attack on abortion rights is not aimed at trans people. It is aimed at women. But listening to the attacks being aimed against Anna Kasparian in the name of trans rights, you would have no idea of this. You would have no idea that this war on women is escalating almost by the day. You wouldn't know that right now a fascist judge in Texas is poised to potentially take away one of the most common forms of abortion medication in this country, including in states where abortion is still legally protected. Listening to them, you wouldn't know that right now fascists down in South Carolina, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Kentucky are discussing legislation that would treat abortion like a homicide, potentially imposing the death penalty on women who get abortions. This needs to be named and it needs to be fought. Now, the point here is not to deny the attacks on trans people, which are incredibly cruel, mean-spirited, and life-threatening, nor to pit these attacks against the attacks coming down on women. The point is that we need to confront what is really happening in this society and what it will really take to deal with it, which is to seize on this rare time when society is increasingly being ripped apart, to lift our sights to and fight for a real revolution. And through this revolution, to bring into being a society where we can finally go to work to uproot and end all oppression based on gender and sexual orientation, as well as all other forms of oppression and exploitation, not just in this country, but across the whole world. And as part of this revolution, as part of getting to the kind of society we would all want to live in, we need to stop with this tear down, revenge-filled cancel culture, and unite very broadly with people from different perspectives to take on these attacks. And as we do, we need to discuss and debate what kind of future we need and what it will take to get there, with principle and large-mindedness. So to close out this segment, let us return again to these words from Bob Avakian.
Instead of snarking and sniping at each other and being divided by identities, people should be working to unite everyone from every part of society who can be united in the fight against oppression and injustice, with the goal of putting an end to this system that is the source of this oppression and injustice.